Joining me now is Reverend Jim Wallace. He is the president and of Sojourners, and also Reverend Barry Lynn, Executive Director of Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Well, gentlemen, we'll start with you, Reverend Lynn, first. What should we do as a country right now? We don't know what to believe, what the heck's going on.
No, I think, but you're absolutely right in suggesting that the administration handled this very poorly. You certainly don't have the Secretary of Defense calling and essentially begging this fringe character in Florida to change his plans. In fact, if the Secretary of Defense, for example, had done a whirlwind tour around the world, speaking in the last 30 hours or so to Islamic nations around the world about how this country functions, why the government is not held responsible for the craziest things somebody says in a little church in Florida, explaining that to the American people again, because sometimes we need to be reminded of that, and to the Islamic world, I think we'd have gotten a lot further than we got now. Now we have the prospect, if somebody decides overnight that they're going to burn Qurans in Georgia or Montana or Northern California, does Secretary Gates now have to talk to them also? Does Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, have to discuss it with them? I think there's no way to go but off this cliff unless we fundamentally get the administration to start talking to the Islamic world and explaining us, and not talking anymore to Pastor Jones, whether he's in New York or on another planet, which is probably where he is.
Reverend Jim Wallace, your take on all of this?
You know, it's sometimes there are moments when we should all take a deep breath. I think this might be one of those times. On September 11th, we should honor those who died. We should honor those who responded. We should honor the principles that make us different than those who attacked us. And there's a pastor in Florida who, I'm a Christian leader, I don't know anyone who even knows him. He is a congregation you can count on two hands. And he is on September 11th creating new flames of violence and hate. That's what he's threatening to do. Dishonoring our principles.
Yeah. The Associated Press and Fox
dishonoring
News.
the families.
Yeah. The Associated Press and Fox News is now saying that they're not going to be covering this on Saturday. Isn't it interesting how Fox comes in and stirs the pot for over a month talking about this, Islamic Cultural Center down the street, and now all of a sudden when it gets to this point, oh, they're jumping out.
Well, Ed, this is Barry. I think one of the things that happens, whatever is lit or not lit down in Florida or anywhere else on Saturday, any Qurans being burned, those matches were lit by the very people that you've been talking about, the Glenn Becks, the Newt Gingriches. You reap what you sow. The reason that freedom of speech is so important in this country is because we understand that it has effects. And I think people better be listening long and hard to their own conscience tonight if they started this Islam bashing, as so many of them did months and indeed years ago. It's not just one pastor. It's a lot of people who should have trouble sleeping tonight.
Reverend Wallace, would it be worthwhile for you and Reverend Lynn to maybe reach out to this pastor, this guy down in Florida, and ask him not to do it? Have any Christian leaders reached out to this guy at all?
Oh, many people have tried. I've said today that pastors across the country, especially evangelicals and charismatics, should call him, and he is slapping the face of Jesus here. No one believes Jesus would do something like this. I was really pleased by the Massachusetts Bible Society today. This got lost in the news. Their response was to say, the Bible Society, we will give away, we will print and give away 2 copies of every Quran that he burns. Now, what I've said, we should surround that place tomorrow with the prayers of people of faith. A huge outpouring to say, this is not our faith, this has nothing to do with our faith. And politicians, you're all right, politicians, political self-interest has intruded here to fan the flames of prejudice and our worst angels. This is a time when we either call for the best in us or for the worst. And I think this really is a test of our character. Everyone has condemned this. Everyone has said this is wrong.
But why doesn't
what we do do as a people.
Jim, Franklin Graham allegedly wrote a letter to Pastor Jones. It was released this afternoon. He says, you know, it's never right to burn anyone's holy scripture. But the point is, Franklin Graham, as a world-famous religious leader, has been the guy fanning the flames, calling, just 4 months ago, calling Islam, not terrorists, but all of Islam, evil and wicked. Now he says, well, I'm shocked that anybody would now take it upon themselves to burn the Quran. Yeah. If you're going to demonize a whole religion, then I think you better not cry crocodile tears this late in the game when somebody goes a little bit further than you might go in causing hurt and pain in the Muslim communities here and around the world.
Reverend Barry,
responsible.
Go ahead and respond, Jim.
I'm in Chicago, and I met today with a bunch of young people from the Interfaith Youth Corps. They're Christians, Jews, Muslims, young people, and they believe that they want to show that their faith means they serve their communities, and they're in such pain at how this narrative at 30,000 feet is undermining the narrative of their lives every day. I think most people in this country want to go in a different direction, and I think we are going in a different direction, and I don't want Terry Jones or Franklin Graham's irresponsible comments to change the fact that Jesus was a peacemaker.
He was. Gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Jim Wallace and Barry Lynn, thanks so much for joining us tonight on this very important subject. Coming up.